Welcome to Six Figure Trucker, the podcast where we share advice on how to be successful in trucking and have fun while doing so. We'll share stories, news, and advice on how to earn six figures in trucking, and we'll speak to guys and gals that are already doing so. Let's get to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Six Figure Trucker. I'm John Madewell, and this is a show brought to you by Norton Transport, where we lift up the truck drivers that serve our country, that go across America, bringing you the trucks that move the products, that make life go on, make the wheels go round and round. And tonight, we've got a very special guest here. We're very happy to have him, Eddie Bray. Eddie dropped by the office here of Norton Transport. What was that, last week or the week before?
It might have been the week before that, yeah.
Yeah, Eddie dropped in on us, and you're moving to Tampa, and I remember the area code. You live in the Jacksonville area, is that right?
Yeah, I live in Jacksonville right now, so I'm moving from Jacksonville over to Tampa, yep.
Is there a reason you're moving? You don't have to tell us.
Well, I'm seeing someone, and we are kind of moving in together.
I got you.
Area. So
Love's calling, man. Love's calling. I got you. I got you.
Hey, my friends, they like, never move somewhere with a woman. I'm like, oh, God, here we go.
Hey, sometimes, when love conquers, obviously she means a lot to you.
Yeah, yes, she does. So, hey, here we go. So I'm doing it. I'm all in. So
you're making the commitment.
Making the big commitment. But, I was like, you know what? I've been doing this job. I've probably been single for almost pretty much since I've been kind of doing this job. And that's been almost coming up on 2 years now. Mm-hmm. And you meet people while you're out and about. And some people just can't handle that you're on the road on the time that you're on the road and everything. But, every now and then you'll find someone and, be like, oh, that's okay. Yeah, I can deal with that. So,
right.
But, yeah.
Well, you kind of led me to my next question. Let's talk about first. How did you meet this girl?
I met her online. Yeah, I was last year, I was at a football game, and we kind of connected there while I was at my son's football game, and got to talking, and kind of just went out on a date. The date was great, and we watched a game together that day, and it just kind of took off. It just took off from there.
Gotcha.
It's been great ever since, yeah.
Have you guys talked about what you do for a living as a Driveaway trucker here for Norton Transport, as far as you kind of mentioned it there, time away? Have you guys talked about that? Yeah,
we tested the waters. He's done hung in there with me. We just kind of work it out where I'll say, hey, I'm looking at this run and thinking about doing this, and it's going to take me this amount of time. So I'll, go lean back on her and say, well, when you want me to be back home, and do we have anything coming up?
Right.
So that's been working out pretty well for us because, she's busy with work and everything. And then she also has a daughter that's 5 years old that keeps her pretty busy anyway. So,
sure.
Yeah. So that, with all that going on, with her working and her daughter in school throughout the week, sometimes, I just, do my best to FaceTime at night, and in the morning we'll get up and FaceTime in the morning before her daughter goes to school, and just kind of start the day that way and end the day that way too. So it's almost like I'm not missing there, but when that time, probably about after a week goes by, then that's when it kind of starts kicking in a little bit. So.
I got you. How important is that interaction as far as the FaceTiming?
It's really big, you know what I mean? It's huge because it's a big, it's your only line of communication at the end of the day. And, so I think it has its pros and cons to it, but a lot more pros right now in our ask point. And then with me personally, I know when I'm ready to be around them. So I'll be like, okay, it's time for me to go home. I need to go home and give them a little love.
Gotcha.
So, but the biggest part is, I think, is the communication. As long as you communicate with that person and not just think about self and what type of money that you're making, it's more of a making sure that person is comfortable and not, lonely as
right.
With you being gone.
I guess it really comes down to, it's kind of a component of balance and planning.
Yeah. And sometimes, it's been some days, with timing that you just can't control. We all been there. You just can't control, when you get home, something, you may have a breakdown or, any of that may pop up, So it's and you communicate. I can never keep saying that communication, once something happens, you have to let that person know, hey, I just had a breakdown and it may take X, Y, and Z. So that means I may not be able to make it by this time. So you go ahead and, want to plant it in their head so they don't get disappointed and you hit them with it at the last minute. It's what I feel like. Just kind of keep them in the loop on what you're going.
Absolutely. What you're talking, man, you're preaching to the choir here, is about communication. Have you guys come across some points, you and your significant other there, as far as where you've been on the road and you have had a breakdown? Have you guys had to experience that so far in your relationship?
Yeah, it was actually this last week I had a breakdown and they wanted me home for Halloween. Mm-hmm. And I didn't make it in until like 9, 10 o'clock at night. Baby was asleep by then. The street shut down, and I was like, dang. And I kind of really wanted to be there. And so that was kind of our first really big experience with it. I don't think it really rattled her too much. She wasn't too rattled about it.
Right.
I think she was just more glad that I just was able to come in that night and make it home safely.
Gotcha. You're listening to Eddie Bray here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Eddie is one of our singles drivers. We're lucky to have him. We really appreciate everything Eddie does. And, you talked a little bit about, this is something kind of in the industry nobody likes for obvious reasons. We don't like to talk about them, but they happen. Breakdowns. Now, tell us, as a driver, you've been out there on the road, you've faced them, you've seen them, you've persevered through them. How do you approach a breakdown, and how do you approach one?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I used to get really, really upset, you know what I mean? And because I just felt like everybody that was involved wasn't doing their due diligence with the situation, or wasn't moving as fast as my mind, or wanted it the process to happen and wanted it to move. And, I'm a type of person where I just like to get stuff done right then. If you tell me that I'm going to get it done right then. So I kind of expect that whenever a breakdown. But, some people, you can feel when someone's on the other line dragging their feet with it or something, but you have to be, the biggest thing that I learned about this job was patience. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say some things that, God is just to slow you down and say, that's what it is. And when that's what it is, you just got to, deal with it right now,
Speaking of patience, did that kind of take you back to what your mom said about patience being a virtue?
Yeah. Yeah. It helps at home too. Like when she's driving and I'm just like, oh my God, why are you going so fast? Why are you so in a rush? I'm just like, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. There's no need, so being a driver and you look at other people's driving that's around you, you kind of critique, because you've seen so much out on the road, so yeah.
As a professional driver, a certified driver, CDL driver, what do you look for on the road when you're not driving a big truck? You kind of touched on it right there with your significant other when she's driving, but are you more, conscious, aware, kind of got your head on a swivel?
Oh yeah, all the time. I'm looking at other truck drivers on how close they're driving close to trucks. And I'm like, oh, this guy's doing this and this guy's doing that. And I'm like, oh, he needs to slow down. Oh, he's too far up. And then I'm like, see, that's how you get an accident right there. You're too close to that semi truck. If that truck swerves, then what? What are you going to do? You're going to be right in the back of it. That's just how I talk in the car.
That's too
He's
funny.
like, God, man, would you stop? But those are just some of the things that just kind of play in your head. You're always looking at the scenario on what could happen. So you always play it safe. You know, even if you like when you're in your own car and you know that you're not supposed to be on the phone, but you do get on the phone, I'll go way in the slow lane. So I'm not holding up anyone or no one has no reason to tell me that I need to move over. Dude, I'm in the slow lane. If you don't like how slow I'm going, go around me. That's why I'm over in this lane, you know? So that's how I kind of critique everyone's driving around me. And I'm, you know, you just be like, okay, this person is, the lanes are marked off by your speed, you know, where you're supposed to be and the speed that you're going. If you're in the 70 range, you know, you're supposed to be your butt over there in the far left. You know, you're going 45 and the 70, dude, you're holding up traffic. So, but yeah, you can pay attention to all of that stuff. People on their phones, you're like, even you can look down in the semis and, you know, so that thing, you know, I'm like, people texting, I tell them I can't be on the phone right now. If you need to talk to me, you better call me so I can be in my headphone, but I got to pay attention to the road all the time.
How much do you rely on your headsets when you're out there? I mean, is that just habit built in, ingrained into you?
I mean a lot, because I've been able to be able to keep my head up, you know, and still stand in front of me, in behind me, all around me, and still be having a simple conversation with someone like I'm doing with you, and still be able to drive. The only time that I normally will get off the phone is when I'm going through some either bad traffic and through, you know, going through a city that I know that's going to be bad, like Atlanta, because they drive so crazy. Yeah. Or, you know, sometimes throughout Cincinnati area, I don't like that bridge between Kentucky and Cincinnati. That's a kind of weird area. Mm-hmm. So I'll get off the phone definitely there and be like, hey, I need to go. I need to pay attention to what's going on with this traffic.
You got to lock down, lock in.
Yeah, you got to lock in. You better lock in, because you just don't know what you got to feel the traffic out so you can feel your speed out. And then if the weather is terrible and rain, or it ain't even got to be raining, then that's another thing, because you might get some fog in some areas going through like West Virginia. You never know what you're going to get through going through West Virginia and places like Wyoming and Ohio with the fog. So especially when it's raining. So yeah, that's kind of my deal with the whole phone situation. But other than that, if I'm out riding on a nice Saturday or something, you know, and the streets are open, then, you know, I don't really have no issues with the phone. It's usually at that time then I'm talking to someone, telling them how nice the view is right now.
Gotcha. Now, on those times, other than the nice Saturdays when you got a nice ride in front of you and you're in the big truck, how important is it to you in those situations you just laid out for us? You know, bad traffic, bad weather, in a congested city, a place that's hard to drive. How important is it to you to lock in? Say, this is what I'm doing. I can't lose concentration. I got to be both hands on the wheel, locked in. Yeah,
you know, it's always important to kind of be locked in, but it's sometimes where you can just kind of relax and, you know, the most important is when you're knowing that you're getting ready to approach certain areas, you know, like Macon, Georgia can get a little rowdy with, you know, but once you start kind of falling out of, you can tell when you're starting to fall out of the city life and the traffic is starting to thin out a little bit more. You know, you're probably still riding in the slow lane, kind of chilling out, you know, kind of come off, because that's an anxiety moment when you're going through a lot of those places, you know, and the traffic is. So your anxiety and your butt is a little tight. because you don't know how you go fit in sometimes. So you ain't from there. People that's from a lot of these places know how to drive in the traffic, and being in these places that you don't know how traffic flows, it can make you a little bit uncomfortable. So going through, unless you done drove through it enough to know how to drive, which is, Atlanta. So that's going to be a high risk anxiety place for you.
Right.
You got to pay attention to that type of thing, and then you'll feel that anxiety to start to release itself once you get up out of the city a little bit and you can relax and maybe turn your radio up a little bit more now.
With the position, yeah, exactly. Rock out a little bit there. With the position of Atlanta on the map and where you're going, you have to go through it. I mean, there's no way around it. Do you have?
Right.
Now let's be straight up here. We want to hear the answer from a guy that's done it, been through there. Do you clench your butt cheeks up when you go through Atlanta?
I do a little bit because I have to think about this new generation and how these kids drive, and I'm just convinced that some of these kids that just got their license handed to them through a bubblegum machine or something, because they just drive entirely too fast. It's not, I don't necessarily think about my own job. You got to drive for other people around you. And Atlanta on around 5 or 6 o'clock, you can forget it. You're finna catch every angle and every type of person that you can think of, motorcycle, you name it, they're all coming through there around that time. So it's definitely a butt glitcher, for sure.
I'm sure it is. Now, have you driven out in L.A. much?
No, I hate it out there. The roads are terrible. I've only taken, maybe since I've been doing this job, I think I only went out there maybe twice, and I didn't like it at all. Luckily, I was in a day cab, so that kind of,
ease the pain.
You can turn a little bit different in the day cab. You can turn a little bit quicker than it is when you're in a sleeper, but. And the roads are just so tight, out there. I've been out to Utah. I love Utah. Utah is nice. Driving from, actually, because I drove from Utah over to like L.A. So that was a nice little drive. It wasn't too bad. Just the wind was terrible. Wind was terrible out there. So.
Well, you've been in a lot of places. You've seen a lot of things. And a lot of people talk about it. Atlanta gets the rap as the worst traffic in America. Would you agree with that?
Oh, no. I've been through New York. I made a mistake and drove through New York. That was pretty bad.
I bet.
And that was a butt glitcher for real, because I had to go through the GPS. I don't know. It just was all over the place. I had to go through like tunnels, and I was like, wow, I don't never want to come up this way again. Not like this. Not at this time. Had to go over a bridge. I think it took me right through like near Manhattan. That was a big mistake. And I was in a straight truck.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that I was worried about my back end a lot, turning,
Oh yeah. I mean, let's think about this for a second here. We don't have any statistical information or hard facts in front of us, but just kind of common experience, and particularly from what we've heard from drivers out on the road there. As far as traffic in cities, would you agree that New York, Chicago, L.A., and Atlanta, those are top of some of the heavy hitters?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I had my experience with Chicago, too. So normally what I try to do now, I figured in a lot of cities, any city that you're going to go to, depending on the time, even out at Houston and out in Dallas as well. Got caught up there a few times. I try to just either think in my head, if I know that I'm going to get ready to hit heavy traffic, if I'm not going to be able to make that drop, I'm going to stop outside of the city probably for a couple of hours and just wait it out, and just maybe go and get my shower and maybe go get something to eat, maybe do something where I don't, if I didn't get out early enough that I know that I was going to get in that city before at least pushing at 2-3 o'clock, I knew I was going to be doomed. with making it on time. So even when leaving in the morning too, it's either one thing you're going to do, you're going to be out on the other side of that city, or you might want to try to drive through it that night and get on the other side of it. If it's going to be a big city, unless you leave at like 5:30 in the morning.
Sure.
So it's the only way to kind of get through, without hitting it.
Eddie Bray, you're a smart man there. So if I understand you correctly there, when you're approaching a city like Atlanta, for example, and you're edging up on rush hour, you're like, okay, let's say I'm in Jackson, Georgia, and I'm heading north, and I know I'm about to hit it. You're like, this is time to go find a truck stop, go in, like you had mentioned there, getting a shower, refresh, let rush hour pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's probably the best way to approach it. Instead of, if you've been driving, say I leave from Jacksonville and I've been driving, I don't know how long it probably take me to get to Jacksonville to Atlanta, probably about a good 6 hours to get to Atlanta from here. So 6 hours to drive and then have to face on the traffic when you get there. Oh boy, you're done for it. Because you're already been driving 6, so you got to think about it. That 6 ain't no joke. 4 or 5 will kind of start weighing on you a little bit, but that 6 is kind of like, well, you kind of need to start taking a break before. You might want to take a break before you go into some heavy traffic.
Well, you think about it as far as gamesmanship and the legal side of it. It's like the amount of hours that you're allocated to drive in a day. It's like you take your break and you don't spend your hours stuck in traffic, not getting any miles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I never try to go into traffic after being driving so many hours because I'm already kind of like, I ain't going to say I'm tired, but it's about break time, and then you get into that traffic and your anxiety shoots up a little bit, and you need a break.
Right.
So, now you ain't doing yourself no justice, especially if you didn't eat breakfast that morning, you've been driving, now you're hungry and irritated with traffic. So now you're going to be a little bit more irritable with the people that do some foolish stuff around you. So,
gotcha. Now, so you're moving from Jacksonville to Tampa. Were you a Jaguars fan by chance? Are you going to be a Bucs fan, or does it matter to you?
No, I never was a Jaguar fan. I kind of grew up in Tampa when I thought, I used to actually go to the stadium when they used to let us in for free. And matter of fact, you could just run into the stadium and the gates are already open. I'm serious. And me and my brother used to run around in the stadiums and play hide and go seek in like the stands behind the seats. And they would literally only have probably about probably I would say 50 people at the game at that time.
Well, I tell you, the way Tampa's playing this year, they might let you in for free later in the year.
Yeah, so the gates I remember that stadium was just wide open. I always said we could ask my mom, hey, Mom, can we run out and go to the game? But we didn't go to the game to watch the game. We would just wanted to run around in the stadium because it was just pretty much wide open to do that at that time. So, you got to think now, I'm 41 now, so that was, I think I might have been about 7 or 8 years old around that time. Yeah. But but fan-wise, I'll probably still go for the Bucs. I grew up there. That's where I'm from.
Gotcha.
But I really don't watch a lot of NFL. Go Gators!
I know firsthand you're a Gators guy. We saw you when you came in. You had your Gators sweatshirt on. So you're a college guy over a pro guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I watched the game in and in and out. I kind of done slowed down a lot these last couple of years because I just, I've been talking crap since I've been in college, and I'm just like, how long am I gonna keep this going on, talking crap with friends back and forth? So, and then I found too, I was spending too much energy doing that online all the time, talking crap. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of and it was a side thing. So I started getting away from that and stopped not doing that. And I saw that it was taking a lot more energy out of my family time too, just to kind of keep up what was going on and who was talking and who responded and who said this. And so it began to be too much. I mean, I didn't want my life to be focused on that. So now I'm just like, I'll catch a game and not be able to, talk trash.
Have you always been a Gators fan?
Oh yeah, my best friend passed away. He signed with the University of Florida when I was coming out of high school. He drowned in a rip current on senior skit day.
Oh.
So so when he had signed with Florida, he was like a real big deal around town. When Florida, you can look him up. Matter of fact, his name is James McGriff. That's where my hometown, where I grew up at.
I've heard of
drowned in the.
I remember that story.
Yeah. Matter of fact, his brother was just here, the one that was helping me move. His brother just left here. Yeah, so he was just helping me move. But that was my best friend, and then after that, I just became, a real big Gator fan, and that happened to us in high school. So, that was a real tragic loss for us then. And ever since, I met Steve Spurrier, been all up in the office. I still have, some connections through there. So every now and then, I go to and call one of my friends and he'll get me. I took my son in the locker room and in the weight room down there and everything, was able to do that for him and everything. So, and got him a whole bunch of Gator gear. So
Cool. You're listening to Eddie Bray here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Now we talk a little bit of football with a lot of people here on the Six Figure Trucker. Mm-hmm. It seems to be a popular thing, but Eddie has a distinction here. He was able to get in some access there to the Gators, to the locker room, because I didn't learn this until meeting Eddie in person, and that was a very pleasant experience here at Norton Transport. Eddie knows the game not because he's a fan necessarily. He played the game. Tell us a little bit about that. If I remember correctly, you were a linebacker at Carson Newman. Is that right?
Yeah, linebacker at Carson Newman College. I played for all-time winning coach Ken Sparks. That's the reason why I actually picked that school. And not only that, I picked that school because one of the coaches that coached me in high school ended up moving up to Carson Newman. And he ended up recruiting me out of there. Now, before I even went there, I went to a junior college in Garden City, Kansas.
Oh, absolutely.
Right out of high school.
There's some great players that come through there, man. A lot of talent, of talent.
Yep. Out there in Coffeeville and all, it's a lot. So I had to go to that school actually because I didn't have the grades to go right into D1. So I only stayed there at the Garden City for 1 year. And then after my first year, Carson Newman was recruiting me, and they recruited me and offered me a scholarship. And the head coach called me, and it was Ken Sparks. And the first thing he asked me was he's like, babe, how's your heart, babe? If you believe in God? He's like, you believe in God? I was like, yes, sir. And he's like, well, good, because we would love to have you here. And I was like, well, then I'm coming, coach. So I never went over for a visit or nothing. I just signed with them, and they, sent the letter in the mail. I signed it, and there I was playing there. So did all 4 years there.
I can hear it in your voice. That was obviously a good time for you, a memorable time for you. Probably taught you a lot of things. And I wanted to kind of segue into what that experience being a team player when you were at Carson Newman, how does that translate into what you do now? I mean, did you build experiences there on the team, out on the practice field that help you now?
Yeah, absolutely. I had this conversation quite often with some of my ex-teammates and, other people too, on what football, did for me. It taught me how to be, family stuff, what I taught me discipline, what I wanted my family to look like whenever I did. And not only that, how to continuously, how to just work hard. I was very passionate about playing the game because I felt like, I put in all that hard work, and I felt like the next man next to me, I hoped that he was putting in as much work that I was putting in. So we were both, wanting to the common goal was to be on top, or, but not only that, it just taught me about life, period. In general, it's definitely, if you buy into it the right way, you can definitely get a lot out of it. And I got a lot out of it. So that's why now, like, even with my work ethic and, everything I do, I kind of look at it as if, okay, what would you do if it was, in a game situation? And that's kind of where I'm at with my life now. When I was in elementary and all of that, I was elementary, junior high, that was the first quarter. I got into, going into college and, going through that life stage, that was kind of like the second quarter, where you at in the game, somebody done scored, or, where you at, where your mind at.
I like what you're saying, man. I like what you're saying.
Yeah. So like right now, I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm like in the early third quarter right now. And you just trying to fill the game out and get yourself set up for the fourth.
You got to play all 60 minutes. That's a great analogy. I mean, looking at life, looking at work, and that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I had to look at, because growing up, I didn't really get a lot of parenting with a whole lot of stuff. I watched a lot of my friends' parents and their household and how they did things in their household, and I just kind of took bits and pieces, of what I liked and what I didn't like, what I thought was, genuine and what I didn't think was genuine, just different stuff like that too. And I applied that to the game, and I applied that to my life. So, yeah.
I want to dig a little deeper into playing at Carson Newman. You guys obviously, through the course of the season, played some good teams. You went up against some bigger foes. Who's the best you went up? I think you told me you were a linebacker. Who's the best you went up against?
Oh, man, we took our butts up to Connecticut and played New Haven. And no, it wasn't actually New Haven. I think we went out west. We went out west and played Western, maybe, no, it wasn't Western Kentucky. I don't know. It was somewhere out west. And this was kind of big for us because they were a 1AA team. The Carson Newman at the time was only like a Division II school.
Right.
Man, we went up there and their fans, we never had fans that, stood in the stands and huckled us and knew our number, knew where we were from, and started saying all this stuff to us. And we all got like, what in the world they just said to us?
They did their research, didn't they?
Yeah, they did their research. And so they were like, they came to the game. They got there early enough to get their seats and start messing us doing warm-ups. Boy, did they put a whooping on us, a big-time whooping on us. And that was our first time even playing on turf. I can remember before I even get out my stand, they were scoring touchdowns. That's all right. I can't remember the school off the name, but they had some big guys that I don't even remember any part of the game that went so fast.
I bet. Did you ever go up, not necessarily individually, but as a team? Did you ever go up against anybody that ended up in the NFL?
A couple guys did. Actually, we had a couple on our team. Yeah, so it was definitely a couple guys that I know definitely went. But we had a couple guys that actually went. Junior Glimpse, he went to Dallas. Steve Josu, he went to Green Bay. Leonard Weaver, he went to the Eagles, actually, and went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so, I remember that guy.
Yeah.
You guys had some dudes.
Yeah. He's actually from our hometown, too. He was my roommate my first year at Carson.
Did you ever sit back and watch a little bit of the pro game, say, I played against or with that guy, And I mean, knowing somebody that's actually been on the same field with somebody like that, what kind of feeling is that?
Sometimes I look at it, I'm like, that person, they actually deserve to be there. They put the work in because you've seen them put the work in, and you know them personally, and you know what type of person they is. So, you're happy for them. And a lot of times it's kind of like the luck of the draw, too, because that, like Leonard Weaver, he didn't play tight end. He was like a running back and then got moved over into tight end. So he just happened to fall into that position at the right time for his size, speed, and everything. So it worked out perfectly for him, which was good. I've been around a lot of players actually that went. I actually, some of my friends, that played at Florida, Joe Cohen, Reggie Nelson, we're all from the same hometown. We grew up together. So I'm actually in a group chat.
I remember Reggie Nelson.
Yeah, that's one of my good friends. So for me to be around, players that don't win, well, those guys are my buddies that I grew up with. So it's kind of natural to kind of be around some stars that don't kind of been in the NFL already and then retired. Reggie actually lives right here in Jacksonville, and I kind of visit him from time to time. And but we just hang out, like we just, it's just normal talk, like me and you, talking. We don't really go into football like that. Whenever we all kind of get together, we just catch up with stuff that we haven't did in a while. So good deal. But when they when they went, I was at both of their draft parties. So when they got drafted, we hauled tail over to Cancun for the week.
Oh, there you go. You go. You said something I kind of caught there when you were talking about being in the right place at the right time for some of these guys who had been in one position but ended up playing another position. Do you ever think about that? It's like, where you came from, what you did. You played in college, you played college football there, and now you are a successful driver. Tell us a little bit about how you got to this position. What put you in this place where you are now a Driveaway driver?
Well, I was actually, before I started doing this drive, I was in pest control. And I had been doing pest control for almost 5 years. And I can tell you about every tree, insect, and grass that you can think of, because that was my job, and I learned it, and I got certified in it and everything. So I was doing pest control. Well, one of my buddies from college, he's actually my roommate. He had been driving for almost 6 years doing Driveaway, and he kept, calling me and be like, "Hey man, you gotta come out here on the road and come make some good money." And at the time, I wasn't really, interested in it because I had my son with me full time, and he was only in junior high then, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to leave him and come out on the road. So I figured I would wait at least another, couple more years for him to get into high school, at least be going into maybe like being a junior, going to a senior year area, and make that move then. So I just kept pushing my friend off, and he just kept hounding me. And then finally, the pandemic came around, and I was still able to work with the pest control, but then, I just wasn't liking that as much anymore, and they was putting a lot more work on me. So I was really ready for a change. And I went and sat my son down, and I was like, "Hey man, I got an opportunity for me to make our lives a little bit better, man. So I'm gonna have to go to school, and I'm gonna have to quit my job and go to school for like a month." And what I did, when they was handing out those stimulus checks, I didn't go out and blow mine. I kept mine because I used that money to pay up, my rent and all my, other, bills, electronics, whatever stuff that phone bill and all that other good stuff,
I got you.
So I was like, well, I knew that I was going to get another check from the job that I was just currently working in. So I took that money And then I took the money, the stimulus money that they passed out. And now I'm remind you, I'll say this, I don't get, I pay child support for my daughter. My daughter don't live with me, but my son does. Two separate women. It's a long story.
Sure.
I'll tell you that later. But
okay.
So I just kind of took that money and put it all towards bills and didn't have any money left. And I just had enough money just to kind of, put some food on the table until I finished school. Well, that school was challenging. I ain't gonna lie. I went to Roadmaster, and they put it on us. They made sure that we knew X and Y and Z, and we couldn't go any further in class unless we got that down pat.
How advanced were you when you came through that school? I mean, were you ready to hit the road rolling there, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was ready to hit the road rolling for sure. I actually had, while I was in school, I took a non-CDL for someone down in Miami, and real quick over the weekend while I was in school, because it was non-CDL. So I was like, well, shoot, my son wanted to go and hang out over the weekend as friends. I was like, well, I'm going to go take this truck and make a little extra money real quick, so I have more money until I finish school. Did that. So, but when I came out of school, I was ready to hit the road. I think I graduated on like a Wednesday. I had flew out on a Saturday and headed to my first truck, picking up my first truck on a Sunday.
You didn't let any grass grow between your toes.
No, because I just knew that I had to get to work. I was out of, I had to put all my money up to pay up all my bills. So I went in, I gave myself a deadline with school. I was like, I have to pass school this week. If not, it's going to fall into another week, and I'm not working right now. So I really buckled down and did my studies every night and stayed up studying until 11, 12 o'clock at night for preparing for school the next day. So,
putting forth that kind of effort and staying up late, studying and getting into the books, and how much has it paid off for you now? And how long have you been on the road?
Well, it's paid off, big time. One, I've been to places that I've never even thought that I would have thought I'd even been to. And I go back and I talk to my friends and family now. I'm like, dude, if you ain't traveled before, you need to get out. You got to get out and go see, just see different people, period. Financially, I'm saying it's helped me more so I can help my family, not even, not just my kids, but my mom and, anybody that may need help. Now, I'm able to be the one to say, hey, man, you know what I'm saying? You need anything? It's been the other way around. I ain't got it, So working, and not only that is I feel like I may be driving a lot sometimes, but I'm able to make my own schedule. That's really rewarding, to be able to say, you know what, I'm taking next week off, and just be able to take next week off and don't even have to worry about, someone hounding you or, oh, you didn't do this. Or, you just being able to make your own schedule has been the biggest,
We've talked to a lot of drivers here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Eddie Bray talking with us tonight. They all talk about that independence and freedom that you have in Driveaway trucking, about setting the schedule. Is it to a point where you can set your schedule, still make ends meet?
With this move right now, when things get thrown in there in your schedule, then you sometimes have to move a little bit different. I'm still trying to figure out sometimes what works for me. Some holiday or something always kind of goes in there where you're like, I got to switch the schedule up this week. Sometimes I can run it where I can be out for a week and a half and I'm good. So get out Monday and I'm probably somewhere heading home Wednesday, Thursday-ish, in that way. And I'm good, financially I'm good.
And that's got to be a nice little balance to have the time and money married together.
Yeah, it is. It is, because then I'll go home, maybe for a good week. Or sometimes I'll be like, the hurricane came down here, and I was like, oh, I can't leave her here with this hurricane, So that was a week. And then before that week, I had not, I had took at least 3 or 4 days off. So I was almost gone for 2 weeks, but I was still fine. You know what I mean? So I save a lot too. So to be able to make sure that I'm able to do, that's the thing, put your money up, and I ain't telling everybody else, I ain't telling everybody what to do on here or anything like that, but I know what balances me. I say I'm going to put $1,000 away each week.
Right.
For sure. No matter what I come in with, so
sock it away.
Yeah, you have to, especially when you work for yourself. You gotta be able to, and maybe two sometimes, but I just know I'm gonna put at least that to the side for sure.
Eddie, I got to ask you this question. Let's go back in time. I was doing a quick calculation here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, math-wise. Late 90s, early 2000s, you're at Carson Newman. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think I got to Carson Newman in 2001.
Okay. I was just doing some math there with you being 41, but I figured I said he's got to be there about 2000, 2001. So let's go back and let's picture you're on the field. You're a linebacker. Were you inside or outside?
I played Sam and Will.
Sam and Will. Did you ever think at that time when you were a young man in the early 2000s there, it's like, I'm going to be driving big trucks down the road, making a living 20 years from now? Did that ever cross your mind, or is it something that just happened?
No, it never crossed my mind at all. Actually, I thought I was going to be, and it's kind of still on the table, I thought I was going to end up being maybe like a football coach or something like that. And I was just based off who coached me, and I saw the passion in how they coached me. And it wasn't necessarily what they did for me on the field, it was what they did for me off the field. The love and the support, and for them tell me, man, you got this, keep going, you can do it. You know what I'm saying? So that was really the big thing for me. I thought it was going to be a coach because of my passion and to want to help other people. And you see a lot. I can see that in a lot of kids now. They want to make it, but do they want to put what it takes to make it?
Absolutely. I know what you're saying.
So yeah, that's why I kind of saw myself doing and being like a football coach, and then on the side note, I can't say a PE coach because I've seen too many PE coaches in my life where I'm like, I don't want to be the famous coach. I want to maybe be a football coach and maybe do something outside of the school with helping, and maybe like some type of non-profit type of thing,
Would you trade it from where you are now, driving trucks, versus being a coach?
Yeah, I probably would. If I had that opportunity to probably go be a head coach, yeah, I probably would.
It's a passion thing for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's more of a passion, and just getting to see that reward and knowing that I was able to help somebody help me, get out there and be able to go just get the opportunity to go to school, and go see it, because you don't know college life until you experience life, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's why a lot of times, people can be hard on these players sometimes, but I'm like, listen, you gotta remember they're still a kid and they go back to their dorms and they live a life and all of that. So I try not to be, because I was once in that position, and you got to remember, they're still young. Some of them are 18, 19 years old. Yeah,
sure.
You say that's a grown man, but yeah, you got kids, and your kids is 18, 19, you still help them if they ask for it. So, so yeah, so it would be coaching.
I mean, coaching is obviously your passion, but not to take away what Driveaway Trucking has brought you. And kind of close us out here this evening. What Driveaway Trucking has brought to you as a man, as a father, as a person in a significant relationship. What has it brought to you?
It's brought me a different perspective, how to look at life, you know what I mean, outside of the people that I'm around. And not only that, being a black man, going into so many places, I feel like, you know, you don't have to, you know, put your chin down. You can walk into some places with your head high, no matter what color of the skin you are. It really taught me a whole lot too. It's all, because some people will put a perspective on you just because you never said a word to them. And as soon as you open your mouth and you speak or you say something that they wasn't expected, then it kind of puts them at ease. So I've learned that a lot. We're going a lot of these places that I know that I would have never went before. Have it made me feel uncomfortable? Maybe a little bit, but has it also made me feel like, well, they won't learn anything unless I'm here. So that's probably the biggest that I've always taken, and I feel, you know, pride. And I enjoy driving, you know, the trucks, you know. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest what I've kind of taken from driving so far.
You know, each episode we do here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Eddie Bray talking to us tonight. Each episode we kind of try to encapsulate it into a title. And what kind of hit me was one thing you said. What would you do in a game situation? Does that apply to what you do as a driver as well? Yeah,
all the time. You know what I mean? I just be like, okay, just, you know, you got to talk to yourself a little bit and just know how to, when it's hot outside, you got to know how to, you know, recalculate your body temperature to not think so negative and not get you, you know, so hyped up. Yeah, every perspective is, you know, kind of looked up in the game situation when, you know, in life and when driving trucks, you know. So like, for instance, in the morning I get up, you know, all right, it's first quarter, you know, and you know, when fourth quarter getting around, when you really start getting tired and you kind of just shut it down, you know. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when fourth quarter come around too, you know, you might have to go a little bit harder than you expect that you got to finish out, you know, but not too hard where you over push yourself either. So
got to take it to the end zone and the finish line. That being said, we're wrapping up here. Eddie, what do you want to leave with us about, say somebody wants to move into Driveaway Trucking? You've been there. You're doing it now. You've got a lot of life experience and pest control coming off the football field, sharing a lot of time with the people you love. What would you say to someone who may be considering moving into Driveaway Trucking?
Keep an open mind. Be patient if you can, as patient as possible. You know, just take it with a grain of salt. Don't take anything too personal. But, you know, be open to see new things. That's really about it, you know. There's so much more you can say in that, though. You don't make, the money's going to be there. You know, the money is definitely going to be there. So, you know, don't get caught into chasing the dollar all the time. And the main thing is enjoy, you know, the drive. Because if you don't enjoy the drive and you get too far ahead of yourself and you start trying to chase the money, then you'll get burnt out super quick, real quick. And you ain't enjoying the money that you bringing in. You're more on the chase for it. And, you know, that doesn't work out in the end. So, and also I want to say, too, that I really enjoyed coming to you guys' atmosphere that week or two. It was a total culture shock for me. I was assuming that you guys were in, like, cubicle offices. Like, that was a nice setup that you guys had there at the office, at the main corporate office when I came there the other day.
You know, I felt the same way when you walked in, even though you were wearing a Gators sweatshirt. You know, I'll let that go. I'll let that go. That's between you and me. But when you walked in, it was kind of like seeing a rock star. I mean, we talked to you guys on the road. We have interactions with you. There's the payment principle, the things that we do on the day-to-day, but we don't get to see you that much. But when you walk in, we're like,
right.
Man, this is one of our guys. I mean, that's the way it felt to me.
Right. And then, I always try to approach everything with a broad personality. So, me, I show up come in high-fiving like I'm Oprah or somebody, and you get a car, so and then I wasn't expecting to walk in. So the first thing because I told Sierra, when I walk in, I want to make a big thing out of it. And she's like, you better not. I'm like, yeah, I am. And then to see all those people, and I'm like, I felt like Homer Simpson going back into the grass. I was like, oh boy. So I was like, oh man, but yeah, it was definitely fun. And I said, yeah, I'm going to have to stop by there again and come and see you guys again.
Hey, you're welcome anytime, Eddie. Eddie, you're welcome anytime here. We like to think of everyone as family, and you certainly. And I want to say we thank you very much for joining us on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Eddie, you've been a great pleasure to talk with and open up some of our eyes and ears to the insights that you have brought forward to us, and the things you've seen, the things you've done. You've opened up our eyes, and we appreciate that, Eddie.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on the call tonight. I was like, a podcast? Now, I've done the one before for sure with some of my friends, but nothing like this. But you have some great questions. Kind of like, I'll be thinking about those for the rest of the night, because some very new ones coming out. So I appreciate you having me.
All right, Eddie, we're going to wrap it up here, and thank you for joining us. And I'll be with you on the phone after we wrap it up here. But thanks for joining us. Be safe on the road. And I would say go Gators. I don't know who you guys have this week, but I wish you well in your pursuit of sports happiness.
All right, I appreciate it, man. I don't know who we play tomorrow. I hadn't looked. I kind of shut off the season I rolled over on it right now on the other side of the bed right now with the Gators right now.
I got you.
I got my back turned to them right now. So.
I got you.
But yeah.
Eddie, thank you for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Six Figure Trucker is brought to you by Norton Transport. Norton Transport is a drive-away trucking company that customers can rely on. It offers excellent independent contract driving opportunities to professional, courteous, and qualified drivers that can provide the kind of service we deliver. If you're interested in learning more about Norton or just want to subscribe to the show, check out 6-figuretrucker.com. That's 6-figuretrucker.com.